that is not the way to, I can't, even compete with that. But that is very, very cool. And I think it's actually a really great demonstration of a lot of the conversation today has been all about the supply side. I'm wanting to spend a little bit of time to talk about the demand side. How do we use educators and youth to create the demand, to learn about awareness, to learn about being actively involved in the dialogue of changing mobility issues within their local communities. Okay, let's see if I can do this. All right. Help. So essentially what I'll be doing today is talking about two things. One is a current example that I took part in, and literally about bringing smart transportation issues to youth and educators via a robotic challenge. And then secondly, how can you use our lessons learned, best practices, in order to create the demand and the dialogue in your community? Now, I didn't see what she did. Oops. There we go. In full disclosure, prior to me starting my own business in Granite Hill Consulting, I worked for an organization called FIRST. Has anyone ever heard of FIRST? Oh, there you go. For those who have never heard of FIRST, it's for inspiration and recognition of science and technology, developed by entrepreneur and inventor Dean Kamen in 1984. This is the premise of what FIRST is about. And I challenge you folks to take a page from this premise, because it's the same that will be the key to the success of involving creating the demand in your projects. FLL is a series of programs, robotic programs. It's a program continuing starting age 6, going all the way up through age 18. The particular program that I am talking about is First Lego League. This is a middle school program, 9 to 14. First partnered with Lego to look at how do we create robotic challenges, or use robotic challenges as a vehicle by which to talk about real-world issues. And in this particular case, they begin with understanding what real-world issues by having time constraints, resource constraints, and they have to work in teams. All are things that are not easily learned and very, very difficult to successfully maneuver. The other important factor in the success of the First Lego League program is the use of mentors. Mentors are not only adults, technical advisors that help on the robot design and help on the research project, but they also are caring adults. The amount of time parents spend with kids have diminished significantly due to the stresses of the current economy. So where then does that child learn about being inspired? Where do they learn about being empowered and looking at their own community? Mentors, I say to you, are an incredible ambassador for passing on your cause. As I said, they do it in 8 weeks. Here are some of the previous challenges that we do. As I said, it's all based on real world. You have no limits. It's a look at those people with physical disabilities and challenges. And that could mean not simply that you have lost a limb, you are in a wheelchair, but you're 6'4", and how do you get in that Miata? You are too short, or you're elderly. How do you get into that public transportation? That is all serious limits to and obstacles to access. Other challenges include nanotechnology. I say to you, your children are the future scientists. And so if you start getting them to believe they are empowered to make real changes in their own communities now at the ages of 9 to 14, imagine what they can do when they're an adult. So in 2008, I convened a group of people to look at the issues of new mobility and transportation. Some of the factors that go into these challenges, I think, are also critical to the successes of your projects. They include the cool factor. Will it resonate with your target audiences? Again, you need to create the demand. Only the way you can do that is if it resonates with me personally. Hate to say it, but it's all about me. That is the attitude. Age appropriateness. In the discussions of transportation and things like that, by positioning your conversations on mobility issues, take it from the perspective of a 9 to 14-year-old, take it from a perspective of a parent. I know that there was questions earlier today as to how do we bring children involved in that. We've talked about the supply side, we talked about systems, but we haven't talked about the users. Educational value. If you want to bring in education, you need to, educators can act as a facilitator to translate the language of new mobility into the language of a 9 to 14-year-old. Real-world issues. I think it's really an empowering situation where the teams of kids and the educators are the ones that make their own decisions on what is the answer to the issue before them. There is no right or wrong answer to new mobility. There's many, many different solutions, as people have talked about earlier. By incorporating educators and students into that dialogue, they will provide to you an additional lens, an additional way to create the demand. Then the topic. New mobility is very much here and now. If you give them the idea that they are responsible for the solutions to this issue, they will step up to the challenge, but no one has bothered to ask. As of this moment, right now, there is 140,000 students, 50 countries, and 14,000 educators looking at the problem of new mobility issues and transportation safety as we speak. In several instances, a lot of the ideas generated from the children turned into ideas of reality. In this particular case, last year,